Tim, it's like we weren't even here last week. And that's because we weren't here yet last week.
That's right. We took a break so we could work 3 times as hard.
Well, are your arms feeling okay? Because you were flying back from Dallas that day that we usually do.
They're starting to recover. It's been about a week since I returned. Is that right? It only feels like a few hours, but yes, I did get stuck in the airport for many hours because of I think it was thunderstorms and sharknadoes. I'm not sure exactly what was happening.
Sharknadoes.
Yeah. With the way the weather's going these days, you never really can tell when you're going to get hit with sharknadoes.
Yeah, Tim was at the Retail Media Network Forum in Dallas, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But I would like to talk about a grocery store experience that I had last night again. So I was at the Jewel here in Elgin, and I'm shopping around, and I see this table full of Entenmann's donuts, which, I'm a big fan of the chocolate-covered donuts, and I see it's a buy one, get one. So regularly priced is $6.59. So I'm like, okay, hey, buy one, get one. I can go for that. But the sign said, buy one, get one on Entenmann's variety pack. And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm looking at these different packs of donuts, and none of them say variety pack on them. The donuts that I like, they don't say variety pack. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to take 2 packages of donuts for the buy one, get one up to the front in the self-checkout line, check them out, and notice that they weren't the ones on sale. And also, to add to this, there was a tag below all the boxes of donuts that had a price $6.59 for like brown berry bread or something. I'm like, what is going on here? They just lost a sale of Entenmann donuts because the sign was too confusing.
You almost got played, but nobody's going to pull the wool over Bill Wilson's eyes.
I'm telling you, man, especially when I have to put in the work and walk all the way to the front of the store and check out myself, and I'm not going to go through that kind of effort for nothing.
You don't like the variety pack?
Well, that was the thing. I'm like, okay, what is a variety pack? I know that there's a variety pack of donuts, but it's not really labeled variety pack. It's called like Entenmann Softies or something. But I just couldn't identify what was going on there. Maybe it's just my old age. But since we are going to talk about the Retail Media Network Forum, I thought it was a great opportunity to talk about not Tim and mine, but it's Supermarket News first live event called Grocery Next, and that's going to be September 10th through the 12th at the Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca, Illinois, and it's going to be where industry leaders explore the future of grocery technology, AI, automation, and some evolving consumer trends. And Tim and I are going to be there. The grocery guys are going to be there. Tim, do you think I should show up with a backwards cap? Since this is
What
my
could be better?
official
Yeah,
uniform?
no, definitely. We got to go in character here. In real life, we don't. We're not this enjoyable to be around.
Do you think we should call some extra security? Because, everyone's going to be all over us for autographs and quotes and interviews. And should we hire some extra security for the event? Because it's grocery guys.
I can't go anywhere anymore. It's I'm going to need an assistant now to go out and do my grocery shopping for me because I get to the grocery store and people just want to stop and talk about grocery guys, and I'm like, enough already.
I think you need a publicist.
Yeah, I could go for that, or
Well,
just any kind of
or
assistant. Maybe.
any kind of assistant. I could use an assistant in the grocery store because I can't read signs correctly. So anyways, for more information, you can go to informaconnect.com/grocery-next, or you can just go on supermarketnews.com for more information. And that leads us to our meat counter, the meat of the matter. And today, Tim is going to be in the spotlight. It's going to be Tim's top 3 TTT that he saw at the Retail Media Network. We need some kind of sound effect or some kind of big, like, Tim's top 3. But we don't have the budget. We don't have the budget for that kind of stuff. So it's just our 2 talking heads.
Well, I can tell you one thing, shameless self-promotions aside, the RMN forum that was put on by CSP Daily News and Next Chapter, which is a company run by a guy named Art Sebastian. He works really closely with Informa and all of its various editorial holdings, was an incredible show. It really was, and I'm not just saying that because they pay me. It was pretty interesting to be out there and just kind of see how the sausage gets made a little bit, and really learn a lot about retail media and sort of how it, because we focus on groceries here, grocery stores, the grocery industry, and to sort of see it, how it plays out and how other industries are taking a look at it and approaching it. The sense that I got from the show was sort of my big, umbrella takeaway was that grocery stores are way ahead of the game on this in terms of retail media networks relative to their C-store, cousins. And I would imagine that it's probably the same for restaurants too. There's really kind of a blurring line between those three industries, but when you take a closer look, you don't really see, they're in different places. And I think it's just because their customer base is a little bit different. Retail media networks are no new thing to the convenience industry. Like you go to the gas station and you see the screen at the pump, and it
Yep,
and it
yep.
tries to get you to buy, soda inside or whatever.
Coffee.
Yeah, or coffee. That's nothing new. I think the thing that's new is, building these loyalty programs, building an online presence for C stores, and really trying to sort of get a tight hold on customer data, which I think that in many ways they're really behind the ball on that relative to the grocery industry. It's, when you think of loyalty in grocery, that's kind of a solid fit, right? I mean, most people go to the same grocery store over and over and over again. People don't. I mean, a lot of folks will go to multiple stores, but I think those stores are always kind of the same. There's a lot more sort of natural loyalty when it comes to that. And so, folks signing up for the app, going on to the website and checking prices, all that kind of stuff. There's just this kind of natural engagement, I think, that happens in that industry versus C-store, where, a lot of folks are, I'm almost out of gas, where's the closest station to go to? But that's all really changing, especially with, these kind of peripheral companies, sort of like the Instacarts and the DoorDashes of the world. The C-store industry has GoPuff, and they were a big player. A guy named Michael Peruka was and he's the head of ads and partnerships there at GoPuff. He was, I think, the first or second speaker for the entire show, and had some really interesting takeaways, and basically made the point. The big thing that I thought that I took away from his, speech was about instant gratification sort of being here to stay, and that's not going to change anytime soon, and it's going to become more and more. GoPuff, often fulfills their orders, and they do it in a variety of different ways. They have their own micro fulfillment centers in the backs of their storefronts. They actually have a storefront presence, which is kind of different from DoorDash or Instacart, which are very similar delivery methods for these groceries. But a lot of their business at GoPuff is people just sitting down, ready to binge watch some White Lotus on Netflix, and they think to themselves, hey, I'd like to have a Coke and some candy or something to go with this. So that's where they're coming from. They say that the fact that they do have storefronts is kind of their superpower, but Michael talked a lot about data and the importance of purchase data, and basically how retailers really need to maximize it for the customer experience. Essentially, like if you're at that gas pump and you look at the screen, maybe it knows who you are already and suggests something that you actually might be willing to buy in the store versus, snap into a Slim Jim. Maybe you're a vegetarian, right? I think the idea is to get good data and really specialize and personalize with these customers.
But I'm always cleaning my windows when I'm filling up. How can that work for me? I want a clean back window, Tim. So when I'm filling up, man, I'm doing some work.
You are the elusive shopper here. You know, you are not the low hanging fruit when
All right.
whether it's Inman's or getting gas at a quick trip.
So what else? What else did you see there at RMN? We got your top three going here. I think we got one. Do you got a couple more, or you want to keep it to a top two?
Yeah, no, I went to some of the breakout sessions as well. It was a bit of a whirlwind for me because, you know, again, I operate mainly in the world of grocery, but I went to some of the breakout sessions that they had that were more, I would say maybe less inspirational and more just kind of practical, functional, kind of here's how you do it. And you know, I went to one. You know, speaking of Art Sebastian, I went to one of his sessions, and he talked about sort of the fact that incrementality is essentially the gold standard for measurement, and that return on ad spend numbers alone really can be misleading. And that what you want to do is you want to create sort of this customer lifetime value and sort of make it your North Star for your retail media strategy. And that over time, you know, if you target the right customers, you're going to see retention. How do you get there from here? I mean, that depends on a lot of different things. You know, where you're located, what part of the country you're in, what your customer base is like, what your goals are. So there's a lot of moving parts when you're getting started building these retail media networks, and a lot of your approach is going to depend on where you at, who you are, you know, location and all that kind of stuff. Some folks already have these networks going, and maybe they want to change them. Maybe their system currently isn't working for them, and so forth. So again, I think that there was just a lot more collaboration at this show than I've seen at other shows that I've been to, because it's everybody's kind of dipping their toe in the water right now, you know, with this stuff. A lot of C-store chains are trying to figure it out, how to build the best mousetrap here. So it's a challenge for them, and I think that makes them more willing to kind of talk amongst themselves, even though, you know, they're in direct competition with one another. I talked to this guy a couple of days ago named Curtis Dukes. He's the director of digital solutions and integration at Sunshine Electronic Display Corporation. That's a mouthful.
It's a long one.
They do those big signs that you see on the side of the highway. That's sort of what they're known for. Those big digital signs that tell you the price of gas. But they're moving in to the store and have been for a little while. But I think they're making more of a real push. And he really summed it up for me in a way that anybody can understand, and likened the retail media network universe in C stores to sort of the early aughts, when there were a lot of MP3 players out on the market, but there was no real place to go and get MP3s. I don't know if you remember that, but I bought one of those little MP3 players. This is before iPods came out, right?
Yeah.
And so you might have an MP3 player. It might only hold like, I think I had one that held like 20 songs or something. It was really
Oh
small,
man,
how much it could, you know, but
that's
to have
huge.
this little tech gadget in your pocket and walk around with it listening to music, to me at the time just seemed like really incredible. So but he said that, you know, there were a lot of platforms in those days, in those early days, and a lot of gadgets and a lot of companies trying to sort of nail it, and iPod or Apple just kind of sat back and waited, and they watched, and they sort of figured out their plan for how they were going to approach it. And then they just completely blew everybody out of the water. And he says that he thinks that retail media networks, for C-Store at least, is kind of in that same world. You know, these folks have a lot of competition with with other tech that's coming along as well. You know, like C stores, just like grocery stores, are worried, not worried, but, you know, thinking about loyalty programs and other kinds of technological innovations at the same time as these retail media networks. So they got a lot of stuff on the table that they're considering, and all of these sort of revolutionary, you know, tech innovations are in competition with one another right now. So it's pretty easy to to put retail media to the side because it's a challenge. You know, it's not as easy as just setting up an app that people can join and get discounts on candy bars or something. It's trickier than that, I think, and I think that's one of the reasons a lot of folks in this industry, in grocery and restaurants and other retail operations, are kind of scratching their head right now, trying to figure out how to implement this stuff, and more importantly, how to measure the success or failure. I know that's one of the big challenges for retail media right now.
Well, let's talk about someone who has made strides in this, but haven't really seen anything on the show floor yet. Walmart bought Vizio,
Yeah.
the TV manufacturer. And when it was first announced, I was like, oh my God, Walmart is going to have, they're going to have screens all over the store now. They're going to be interactive. It's going to be amazing. Haven't seen that yet. Have not seen that, at least at my local Walmart. And I just thought that, boy, Walmart is ahead of the game here, man. They bought a TV manufacturer, and it's going to help them enhance their retail media network.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say. I live in Chicago and I am nowhere near a
There's no
Walmart.
Walmarts, man.
I did go to Walmart when I was in the Dallas area for RMN Forum, because I had to pick up a couple of things. I was able to visit some family while I was in the area, and so I went over to a Walmart, and retail media screens at least, and that really is just part of it. Like, when you talk about retail media, you're talking about their
Right.
online presence and all that kind of stuff too. Their mobile app stuff and everything. And I the screens or the retail media in their physical store wasn't the thing that jumped out at me. I was going in for some stuff. I ran in and I ran out. I wasn't really investigating. A lot of times when I go to stores that I don't make it into often, I'll try to take a look around, but I didn't have any time. But there was nothing that jumped out that said, "Oh my God, look at this incredible retail media stuff happening here," because if it had, it would have caught my attention for sure. But
But that's the thing.
isn't Walmart Connect like a third of their operating profit? I think comes from RMNs. Maybe I'm wrong about that,
Yeah,
but
it's
that
pretty
was,
close.
yeah.
But I guess my question is, and we can kind of move this into paper or plastic. They've the talk about retail media networks is great. The buzz is great. Walmart made this major move a year ago, and other grocery retailers have made strides in this. And I guess like with AI, it's like, okay, there's a lot of talk out there, but when are we going to put the talk to the action here? And I guess my paper or plastic moment here is, when do you see this happening? Do you see this happening? I should say, do you see them taking a leap in retail media later this year, or is it going to be beyond that?
We're talking about Walmart specifically.
No, let's talk about grocers specifically, because
Oh,
they're a little bit ahead
grocers
of the game than
specifically.
convenience
I
stores.
I think it's a little bit of like three steps forward, two steps back. And they're making kind of this incremental progress that was really kind of catapulted largely by the pandemic. Everybody was trying to figure out, like on the fly, how do we get customers into the virtual store, and that really set it all off. But now that artificial intelligence is sort of like the tech darling of the moment, and that stuff works in tandem with this retail media stuff. So they're not exclusive technologies to one another, but I think that there is a greater focus on that right now. I think where you're going to see a lot of the fastest And the biggest and most notable innovations are through companies like Instacart and GoPuff and DoorDash. You know, like I just wrote a story yesterday about how Instacart has launched a separate vertical app that's completely separate from the Instacart app called Fizz. And Fizz is supposed to be just for party supplies, basically. And it's got a lot of options for, like, if you want to have, you know, groups of people, everybody orders something and you don't have to split the bill evenly. Everybody just pays for what they put on the list and stuff like that. So it's really caters to that kind of party crowd. You can get liquor, you can get, you know, snacks, all that kind of stuff for your party. Maybe it's a last minute thing or if you run out of chips or something like that. But I thought that that was pretty innovative to make it separate from Instacart. And you know, it was just launched. I don't see that many people probably using it just yet, but I would bet you any amount of money that once people do start using it, a lot of them won't even realize it's connected to Instacart. I haven't seen it or looked at the branding or anything, but I think that with these peripheral companies, that's where you're going to see the biggest innovation because that's kind of their MO to begin with.
Is it going to be later on this year or beyond?
Later on this year or beyond? Good question. I think after Grocery Next, it's going to explode.
Oh, you know it is because grocery
Shameless
guys are going to
self-promotion.
be there.
No, I think it's going to be a slow burn, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think that you'll see it gradually over time, and maybe there will be like an iPod, you know, kind of tipping point, but we just haven't seen that yet. It's really anybody's guess. I'm not smart. If
Yep.
I knew that stuff, I would be getting paid a lot more probably.
Well, I know that stuff, but I'm just not going to tell anyone. So, anyways, no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm
Man,
looking at beyond. In fact, I'm looking at
yeah,
27, 28 before we really see all this, you know, all this technology start to peak.
yeah. It's going
All
to be
right.
like Blade Runner, you know. It's going to be on the side of a building or something, and but yeah, I'm excited to see.
He is Tim Inkelbarger with a big sneeze there because it is
Oh
allergy
man,
season. And
he's
I am Bill
allergy.
Wilson.
Somebody's got to find out some technology for that.
Just don't go to Jewel and try and find signage for the right kind of medicine. It's a lost cause. That's my personal experience there. He is Timothy Inkelbarger. I am Bill Wilson. We are Grocery Guys. Have a great week.